Hi, SLU members, and welcome to the latest Clubhouse clip. I'm Eric Edelman, the producer here at SLU, broadcasting to you live from Smoky Hollow Studios at SLU HQ in Washington Depot, Connecticut. But really where I am right now in the world, it's still pretty light out. It's getting to be summer. It's getting to be lighter later on the East Coast, which is why it's great that we have our telescopes pocketed all over the world here. Tonight, as you can see maybe by the bottom left corner of the screen, we're going to be broadcasting live from the Canary Islands, where we're going to be looking at an object that maybe today of all days doesn't want to particularly be looked at. We're going to be looking at tonight a very, very shy moon, a moon that is far away from us and is being a bit socially awkward. But, you know, never mind that. We're going to be training our telescopes, our half-meter telescope, on the moon and getting a close-up personal view of what the moon, in particular today of all days, has to offer, because it sure is a heck of a lot. And joining me here tonight to talk about it is SLU astronomer Bob Berman, who really, I think, knows a lot about this phase of the moon in particular, and so it'll be a great show. So thank you very much for joining me here tonight, Bob. It's always great to have you on a show.
It's a pleasure, Eric. This is the best of the moons. So, and I love the moon. So, I can't wait. I'm glad when members decide to forsake just temporarily distant galaxies and asteroids and faint objects and go to the closest celestial body in the universe, because, what else shows as much detail as the moon? Nothing. So it's exciting.
Right, yeah, and I mean, we actually were seeing it a little bit right now, but our talking heads have blocked it. This is the all-sky view we see right here. of the Canary Islands and of the moon. That's the giant glowing orb. It's not the sun; it's the moon. But it really is blinding us a bit to the other stars in the sky. So, what better way to celebrate this limelight stealing attraction than to look at that? I suppose when it's stealing the limelight. But yeah, what other things can we maybe see in this field of view here, Bob? Is there much?
Oh, well, there actually is, even though it looks like a day sky because the moon is so bright, even though it's just one day past first quarter. The left side, the brightest star, we're pretty much over the word, that's it. ISL and Islands, that's the planet Saturn, reached its closest point to Earth a few days ago, and that's a major focus for SLU members as well, with the reddish star Aldebaran to its lower left. That's the bright star to its lower left. Yep, Aldebaran. I'm sorry, I said Aldebaran. I meant Antares. Antares means rival of Mars. Ares was the Greek word for Mars. Ant means opposite, like antonym. So the rival of Mars. I don't know what made me think of Aldebaran. That's an orange star too. Anyway, another orange star is just above center, just a little higher than center. That's the brightest thing out in the spring sky. That's the star Arcturus in the kind of obscure constellation of Boötes. And if you go down from it, the only other bright star down below it is the blue star Spica, the brightest star of Virgo. So yeah, this stuff that's up besides the moon. But hey, when the moon is this perfect, why not zoom in on it?
And really, what better sentiment than that to go directly to? Here's our moon.
Oh,
And
isn't that pretty?
it's so gorgeous. And seeing the Terminator, seeing where the light meets shadow on this moon in particular is so incredible. Like there's just so many features there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said on this one in particular because, okay, this is the time of the month when it's at its far point from us. But given the power of the SLU telescopes, that's a non-starter. It hardly matters if it's a little smaller or a little larger. We can overcome that easily. The important thing is that that Terminator, you just pointed out that line separating day from night, is running right down the middle of the moon. And when it does that, it illuminates the craters and the mountain ranges at their very best. Look at the complete right side of the moon when we go back to our next mission and look at our next image, and you'll see that any features there are foreshortened. We're looking at them at an angle, but the features that tonight are right near the Terminator, we're looking straight down on. So they look like circles, the craters do. They don't look like oblong ellipses. And that's one reason we're seeing them at their very best. And when we get back to that close-up image, we'll look at that again. Meantime, the time from first quarter, also called the half moon, to about 3 days after that is probably the best time of the lunar month. So if you're a newbie at this and you'd like to see the moon, use the SLU telescopes or even look at it through binoculars, because if you brace them steadily enough, or if you're wealthy enough to own image stabilized binoculars and look at the moon, that's the best time. The half moon that's growing, that is the waxing half moon or first quarter moon, to a few days after that, and that's when you see the optimum details on the surface.
And we saw that one glimpse, and it really sort of plays into how shy the moon is being tonight. Because we stared directly at the moon for a little bit too long, and it got a little socially awkward, got a little concerned. And so right now we're not seeing the moon on the telescopes. I think we just put a little bit too much social pressure on it. But as it stands, though, we're seeing in the all sky here, whereas from a distance, we're able to view this moon a little bit more casually, and I think it's feeling comfortable with that. So I mean, and there's still a lot to be gleaned from this distant view of the moon. We'll see if the moon builds up the confidence to sort of interact with us up close again during the show. But other than that, there's still a lot to be seen. And I mean, really comparing this phase where we're getting fuller and fuller to say like a crescent phase. Are there particular things that are really just so much better about what we can see now at this time?
Well, exactly, because the sunlight comes in at an angle uh, right in the middle of the moon at this phase during either the first quarter moon or the last quarter moon. And so it's the Terminator. I know it sounds like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Terminator, but that's where the lighting is most optimum. And you could use a quick demonstration of your own. If you take a flashlight and you shine it straight down on a wall or a door or any rough surface, if you shine it straight down, the surface looks flat. If you put the flashlight against the wall or the door or the rug or the rough surface so that the light's coming in at a steep angle, then you see every bump, every detail. And that's what's happening right now. Notice here as we look at this series of images, this is really great, shows you that the details are where day meets night. That's where you see the craters. That's where you see the mountains. And previously visible craters turn into just flat areas with a few albedo features, um, meaning areas that are darker or lighter but don't really show relief, don't show crater depth and mountain chains and rills and other detail. Look along that Terminator how it's almost like magic. You can see detail only along the Terminator and slightly away from it. And then when you look at a distance from the Terminator, the moon looks flat. It looks blotchy in terms of dark and lighter areas, but it's flat. And what's fun with the moon are seeing the craters. Most of the large ones are about 60, some of them are as much as 70 miles across. That mountain range that's just above center are the lunar Apennines, perfectly lit up tonight, by the way. And watch that Terminator as it gets to the lunar Apennines, right there. You see that mountain range at its best. At other times of the lunar month, the worst is the full moon, it seems to almost disappear. Ready again? Look for the mountain range right now. There it is, right above center. And watch how that almost disappears so that you can't even tell it's a mountain range at around the full moon. So, again, that's why we like this period of the lunar month. Another feature that's going to show up tomorrow night for SLU members who use the telescope or want to do some moon observing is the great crater Copernicus, right there. Now, you can find it by following the lunar Apennine chain, which has a kind of curve to it, and it points you to Copernicus. I'll tell you when we get to it. Ready? Right there. It's above center. We'll look for a crater that's above and to the left of center, probably halfway between the center and the upper leftmost limb. We're going to pass it again. Ready? Now. And it's just a gorgeous crater with terraced walls that step down to the base of it and a rim that's 11,000 feet high. And these are the kind of details that we love to watch on the moon through the SLU telescopes. You know, people say, hey, the SLU telescopes are so powerful. Let's look at galaxies. Let's look at the colors of nebulae. And I totally understand that. Or let's blow up Saturn to using such magnification that we see the rings beautifully. And yeah, that's right. But let's not undersell the plain old moon. Blew Galileo's mind in 1610 when he first saw it with the telescope. Nobody had known that it has these features. Everyone thought those dark, blotchy areas were seas, were oceans. They're still called oceans. The Sea of Tranquility, the Sea of Serenity. And a quick look with his crummy telescope, and it was a terrible telescope. First telescope had 3 power. Later on, he had 10 to 20 power, but it was all blurry and had color distortions to it. But even through that, he was awakened to the world of this fantastic detail that the moon provides. And there's no better time than this time of the lunar month.
That's yeah, really there. It's just wonderful, sort of listening to you wax poetic about this object because it is the neighbor that with our naked eye we can see, with binoculars we can see, with high-powered telescopes we can see, and each time we see it in this different arena, we have a new incredible experience, and it's great to see sort of what SLU members do precisely with that. Like for example, we are in the clubhouse. We're looking at the launch pad where people make their reservations, and right now we are looking at the shy waxing moon, and it's there, but it's a little socially awkward right now. We don't want to disturb it too much. But we have there's so much that can be done sort of every night with the moon. We always see people making reservations to see the different phases of the moon, and that I mean really speaks a lot to sort of the activities that are available for people in the clubhouse. Like one of the challenges that we have is to try to take a picture of the moon at each phase that it has, sort of collect your album in the sequence as it follows through a month, and have that as a great opportunity. And of course, we can't forget that we just despite the the individual efforts that are all around there, we also have a lot of team celebrations where we look at the moon in a lot of different ways. We have a show channel that you can look at different shows that we've done in the past. Here it is, show channel Mighty Moons, where there's if you like lunar eclipses, if you like different full moon shows. Oh yeah, here's the total lunar eclipse from way back when. January's new moon. We had an incredible show showing off some of the imagery from our feed partners in Dubai that had recently been working toward that. Full moon rise and more lunar eclipses, harvest moons, all the moon photobombing Saturn. We actually have a show coming up soon where the moon will be photobombing yet another planet. So stay tuned for that one as well. That'll be a lot of fun coming up next month. But yes, lots of moon stuff galore in here. You will not find the bottom of Slew's pile of moon stuff. You really like it. If you continue to dig for forever, it's not going to show up. So if the moon's your thing, you are really in luck right here. But yeah, there's
And it
lots to be
should
had.
be their thing because, we owe the moon our lives. Of course, the sun is the celestial object that most gives us life. We all know that. But fewer people realize that the moon keeps our axis from tilting too much. Without the moon, we'd go through chaotic changes, and sometimes Earth's axis would point right toward the sun, which would make the sun overhead for months at a time and make life impossible. And then it would go to zero tilt, which would mean we'd have no seasons at all, which is also bad. Instead, the presence of the moon limits our tilt by only 1.5 degrees either side of the present 23.5 degrees, which is very life friendly. So it's good. It's our pal on top of being interesting to look at.
Absolutely, our protector. I mean, from all the cratering that we see on the moon, it just shows sort of what the moon has experienced versus what we have not needed to experience. And really, there's a lot to be learned and discovered, and there will be more shows in the clubhouse if you like the moon. So stay tuned for those, and let us know if you'd like to see a certain show on the moon. We're always happy to hear your suggestions, and so in the live shows page, just let us know what you'd be interested in seeing. And also, this is a very special night tonight because this is the first of two shows in the clubhouse that we're going to be having. Then we're going to be we saw the Shy Moon just today, and we're also going to be seeing a little later on the Neptune rising in the morning skies and returning to our skies, so that we can now see it and enjoy that planet. So stay tuned for that show as well. But as we're sort of leaning out of our moon show here tonight, Bob, I was wondering if you had any final thoughts on our protective, friendly, really incredible neighbor.
Well, simply, if you're in a place that's clear and if you own binoculars, most of us do, give it a look. I think you'd be surprised at how much you can see. Of course, nothing compared to views through the SLU telescopes, but there's a lot. There's no other object in the universe that shows the detail that the moon does. So even though, yeah, it's our closest neighbor, it's only 1.5 seconds away at the speed of light, the only place that humans have ever stepped on. It's very cool as that shadowing that we just looked at when we looked at our live view of the moon a few minutes ago creeps along the surface at 10 miles an hour. Same speed that a jogger would run on the moon. That's how fast that day-night Terminator line moves over the moon's surface. And as it does, is like a curtain going up on a theater, revealing more detail every single night. So you never get tired of it because it's always new, always shows something new.
Absolutely. And I mean, what better day to see the moon and celebrate the moon than the birthday of Sally Ride, the first woman in space? It's a connection there that we have, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going forward and out into the never-ending frontier. There's a lot more to be explored, and we're glad you're here on board with us at SLU. Thanks so much for joining us for this show. and we'll be back again in just no time. And of course, we'll have our wonderful slew astronomers on throughout. So thank you again for joining me, Bob. This was really great. I loved hearing what you had to say, and
A
I'm
pleasure.
looking forward to working with you again. This has been
Great.
Eric and
Great.
Bob for Slew.
Thank you. Good night.
Hi, Slew members, and welcome to the latest Clubhouse clip. I'm Eric Edelman, the producer here at Slew, broadcasting to you live from Smoky Hollow Studios at Slew HQ in Washington Depot, Connecticut. But really, where I am right now in the world, it's still pretty light out. It's getting to be summer. It's getting to be lighter later on the East Coast, which is why it's great that we have our telescope.